to all present here and also the online viewers that are watching us. Welcome to the 55th International Film Festival of India. Today I have the pleasure and honor of welcoming the cast and crew of Australian movie The Rooster. As you all know, the country of focus for the 55th IFFI is Australia, and we have many amazing Australian movies screened here, and one among them. Can we all have a clap? So before we begin, I wish to let you all know that this press conference is being live streamed so that film lovers and their friends in the media can also view the proceedings remotely. And also please switch off your mobile phones or keep them in silence. So today we have the director and writer of the movie, Mark Leonard Winter, lead actor Hugo Weaving, producers Geraldine Hakewell and Madhu Charaki. Okay, so before we go with the questions, I'll just say the synopsis of the movie. So Dan, a young police officer coping with the death of his best friend Steve, retreats to the wood where his dead body was found. There he meets a reclusive hermit who may have some answers about Steve's murder. So we also have the trailer of the movie. Can we just play the trailer of the movie before we begin? Please switch off the lights. Okay, so that was an amazing trailer. So before we open the floor to questions, we'll ask the cast and crew to give an opening remark. We'll start with the director and the writer of the movie. Also, this is your first feature film. You must be feeling great.
Yeah, I am feeling great, and I'm feeling particularly great to be here and to be screening as part of IFFI. It's a great honor for us to be here. This film was made sort of differently in Australia. My wife, Geraldine, she's my wife, and we made this at our home. So it's quite a small movie, not like The Matrix. And all these amazing people came, Marvin and David, who are here, came, and this amazing cast and crew came together to make this. So it was a real sort of labor of love. We had breakfast and lunch every day in my garage, so it wasn't like a big Hollywood kind of production. So it sort of feels extra special to be here now in Goa as part of the festival, to share it with an Indian audience and to see if what the film is exploring and what the film is about resonates here with what's happening here for people. And so it's just a real privilege and a pleasure to be here. So thank you for having us. Yeah.
Also the actor, who actually don't need any introduction. How was your experience in working in this movie?
My experience of working on the film was deeply enjoyable because I had worked with both Mark and Jerry before as actors, and Mark and I have been in about 4 films together, and Jerry and I worked on stage together. So I knew them as friends and had read a number of drafts of the script, but was always engaged with the story and the character, and was very excited about the challenge that the character presented for me. But I enjoyed playing him enormously, even though he's quite a damaged human being. It was a lot of fun,
Also the producer, this movie must be special for you for obvious reasons. So would you like to share your experience?
Yeah, it is very special for obvious reasons, but I was so proud of Mark's work on the script, and so excited to see him evolve from acting to creating his own work on screen. I always knew that he'd be really good at it, and he far exceeded my expectations, and that was a really special thing to witness. You know, being a part of the filmmaking process was amazing, and I learnt so much, and Mark and I say it felt like we put ourselves through film school making this film. But seeing what he managed to create, and watching it again last night after some time has passed was really moving, and I'm so proud of him.
Thank you.
Also,
Hi everyone, thanks for having us here. It's so exciting to be in Goa and everyone is so wonderful. It was unreal showing the film in a really high quality cinema, I have to say. So we've seen the film 100 times, then we thought maybe we just stay out and come back, but we just couldn't help ourselves. It was just beautiful. But going back to the project, I think it started, of course, like every other film, from the script, and Mark's word on the page were just so beautiful. The picture he painted of the landscape, which everyone who seen the film can confess its own character, and the dialogue that comes so naturally. Often people, after watching the film, they think, has there been some improv? No, they were all written words, because it's so natural, and people who come to us and they say, I know people who talk that way, and I think that is a huge compliment you can give. Dialogue is always the hardest thing. And I think it's just the performances are speaking for themselves, and it's amazing as a first-time director debut film, the weight that Mark carried on. And I'm so proud to say that the films had nominations and awards in all the categories for set, costume. We won award for music, Mark for a debut film. Lovely Hugo Weaving here, so I can go on and brag, but I will spare you the time. But it's just been an honor, so it was just a no-brainer, of course.
okay, we're the brag for sure. So we'll open the floor to questions. Someone ask questions? Okay.
Hi, many congratulations to the entire team. Such a privilege to have all of you here. So my question is about the sound used in the movie. So I noticed in the trailer that the kind of sounds you've used, along with the music, of course, they're in contrast to each other. So there's a particular music that plays which is in tune to the table tennis ball sort of ricocheting off the board, and then there's music, but there's also the screams, very guttural screams that come from the lead actor. And so what is the process, or what is the thought behind having such a sound and musical experience sort of integrated, and what kind of audience reaction do you have in mind when you're designing the sound for such a film?
A great question.
Yeah, great question.
Yeah.
I won't answer it, but
So the composer, his name is Stephen Gregory, and he's a very brilliant composer in Australia. He's done a lot of theatre that I've worked with him on for a while. And we ended up landing on the idea of just using voice for the score. So there's no instruments aside from the music that is played, diegetically in it, like the jazz and stuff like that. But in terms of music we composed for the film, it was all done by the human voice. And that idea was sort of born from this poem that Dan, the main character in the film, reads at the end, which is a poem about this feeling that God has abandoned you, and the way the character in the poem experiences this is that there's a procession going by of these exquisite voices, and in the poem the idea is that is the feeling that God is leaving you, and that you are now alone and have to face things alone. So we thought, well, let's use that as our premise and craft the whole score with voice. And what that opened up for us was everything that the human voice is capable of, from the sort of primal, guttural grunts and groans and the more animalistic noises that we're all capable of, to the divine, to the most exquisite music that human beings can create. So that was it took us a while to get to that idea, but once we landed there, it felt really exciting, and I think Stefan managed to create something very unique and very beautiful. And I think when it is voice, an audience kind of can experience that in a way, either consciously or subconsciously, that this is being created by people. So perhaps it just creates a deeper connection to the film and what the ideas are, and I think it's also very exciting as well. So that's where it came from. Yeah.
And I also like to add, we had Emma Bortinian who did the sound design, and she's fantastic, one of the top in the country in terms for sound design. And you have amazing, exquisite nature and birds and wildlife. So I hope yesterday you experienced a little bit of Australian bush, because it is quite special sound. So I think Mark really brought that forward.
Yeah, hi sir. My question is to Mark. You have been done so many movies and television also. What is the story behind that you turn actor into director?
Well, yeah, that's my background. Is sort of, I come from an acting background, and there's a sort of saying that acting is all about listening, and there's a Seamus Heaney poem that says, like, you've listened long enough, now strike your note. And I thought, I went through something a few years ago where I sort of kind of lost myself a little bit in a battle with my own brain. You know, it was a sort of a moment of, me battling mental health. And when you're in that place, it's such a meaningless time in your life. You're not really you anymore, and the world as you see it isn't really real anymore. And it's quite scary when you're in that place. And so I thought, well, how can I create something that has meaning, that can talk about what that experience was, and turn something that was negative and scary into something perhaps beautiful and hopeful. So that was my reason for wanting to make the film, to try to talk about this stuff, because particularly in Australia, and I don't know whether it's the same in India, I imagine it might be, but it's very hard for men to talk about difficult things. And I thought, well, I'll try to, and see if that can maybe start a little bit of conversation, and then maybe it gets easier for the next person to talk about it, and then you can take away some of the stigma around talking about that stuff. So that was my real motivation for why I wanted to do it. And I also wanted to boss people around. But that's where it came from. Yeah.
Yes, thank you. Yoga sir, I have one question for you. Nowadays we are seeing that Indian movies are growing day by day now. As we see, last year we got Oscar for one RRR movie, in Indian movie. So do you like to work in Indian movies?
I would love to work here, actually. There's a filmmaker here who I met again yesterday after about 9 years. We met at a film festival in Sydney, and we were both on the jury of the Sydney Film Festival. And his name is Anand Gandhi, and he lives in Goa. And I loved his film Ship of Theseus, that you all or some of you may know, but it's a beautiful, beautiful film. And we got to know each other quite well 9 years ago, but haven't seen each other since then. I would very much love to work with him in this country sometime, somewhere. So that would be a great honor and pleasure for me. Yeah.
My question is to Mr. Hugo Weaving. So you started your career in Australia with, I think, Bodyline, which was an Australian series. From then till now, working with Mark as well, you've gone to Hollywood, you've come back to Australia, so to say. How has cinema in Australia changed over all these years for you, and what do you see that has changed, or what is improving, or is better, or is different from when you first started off your career in television to now in movies?
What hasn't changed? I think so many things have changed, really. And I never went to Hollywood. I mean, it's true that I've worked on a lot of big budget films, but interestingly, the ones everyone talks about, particularly here, The Matrix, was filmed in Sydney. So Hollywood came to me.
As it
We did train in Los Angeles for the kung fu sequences over some months, but we filmed in Sydney, and the directors of that film had seen a film I did called Priscilla, Queen of the Desert, which is an Australian film, and they loved it, and they loved me in it. And can you believe that after playing a drag queen, they decided I was perfect casting for Agent Smith? So anyway, I think the biggest change that's happened, really, I've always wanted to work in Australia, work on Australian films like The Rooster. So something that's born out of the country, that's born out of the people who live in the country and who work in the country. That's my focus, and it always has been, which is why I've never gone to Los Angeles, which is why I do not consider myself a Hollywood actor at all. I focus on working in Australia, whether it's theatre or film or television. And so that's always been my focus, and that's a constant for me. I do travel. I'm very lucky. I'm very privileged to be able to work overseas. So it's not like I only work in Australia, but that's my focus. The biggest change, I think, has come in over the last 10 years, particularly since COVID. During that time, all the streaming platforms have established themselves, and so the whole infrastructure and the way in which we view films has changed dramatically. So I'm sure you feel that in your country, like in ours, people come to film festivals like this, but outside the film festivals, people aren't going to the cinema as much anymore. I'm not sure it's the same with Bollywood films. Maybe Bollywood films, but it's not. Maybe all cinema is in crisis, existential crisis. So I think that's where we all are in the world. We're viewing films on the bus, on our own, on these things, and people are making films on these things. So the technology has changed, the platforms have changed, the way in which we view films have changed, but people are still making films, and people are still telling stories. The technology's changed, and the screens have changed, but the stories are still there. So we're taking them in different ways, and that's great. That at least is the constant. But aside from that, I think things constantly change in life. If you're not changing, you're dead, right? Or you're a stone. So you would hope that things do change, but sometimes the changes are quite momentous, and they make you worried about the future of democracy, of storytelling, of inclusivity. So all of those things are critical, and but that makes me want to work more and more on films like The Rooster, to be honest.
My question is to both the producers of the movie. We saw Mark speaking about the scale of the movie on which it was made. We have seen he was speaking about the streaming platforms which have become dominant. While we are seeing the studios dominating the filmmaking, how difficult do you think it is for small filmmakers to find finances? What was your opinion? What was your experience about that? Because the other day we had documentary filmmakers similarly raising their problems about finding it difficult to raise the finances. Is it time to now think about different business model for filmmaking?
I mean, yes. I think we knew that it would be difficult probably to raise finances for this film because it's a drama, because it's a first-time filmmaker. We had Hugo, which was a big plus, which did help to a certain extent, but I don't know if it's the same here, but in Australia, drama is very hard to sell unless it's gone to Cannes, and even then, I think it's hard. So we knew that it would be difficult, so we purposefully kept the scale of it as small as we could, whilst also trying to make sure we had enough to create something that could be seen worldwide and hopefully be competitive worldwide. So it was finding that balance of trying to get as much money on screen as possible and make it look and feel and sound as beautiful as Mark imagined it would be, whilst also making sure it was small enough that we knew that we could achieve it with what we had, which is also why Mark wrote it for our house, our community, locations that we knew we could access for free. And that was a very specific decision that we made. I know Marvine's thought a lot about different business models for films, particularly independent films in Australia, so maybe she can talk to that.
I think it's always hard. Everybody say every film is a miracle when it's made. We're very lucky in Australia. We have great funding bodies. Rain Australia supported the film. But I think when it comes to independent films, especially personal films, you find allies. So it's not so much, so you have, especially this one, it's very personal to Mark, and it's a drama, as Jerry mentioned. So you go to people who want to support. So you look at trying to see what you can present to the people who you want to finance your film. Are they interested in talent escalation, right? Driving the industry in a way, seeing the new talent like Mark rise up. Are they interested in a topic? So I think you got to really think, what is your film trying to do? But I also think on a paneling camp someone was mentioning, because it's just not happening. The market is just not quite know where it's going. And someone was mentioning that he wonders if the films need to go back to where it was. You remember the rise of the independent film, where Sundance, and then you just go back to basic, and start and see how you can achieve a beautiful independent film, which always starts with a great story. And as Jerry said, or Mark cleverly put it, see, okay, I can really contain this in this location, and, just try and find what it is in your story that you can leverage. And yeah, good luck. Financing films are always really hard, but yeah, I'm sure you'll be fine.
One last question. Anyone have any other question? Yeah.
Hello everybody. It's nice to see a film in the IFFI International Film Festival in India. To the director, are you any plans to produce a film from Indian co-production?
Look, I don't really, off the top of my head, I'm sort of working on various things, but that weren't sort of, directly involved with India. But just sort of being around the film bazaar, the last few days, and I met a lot of filmmakers, they're Indian filmmakers, who are sort of doing similar things to me and working in a similar space to me, and doing some interesting, really independent stuff. So you can't help, and they were just extraordinarily creative and interesting, so you can't help but start thinking like, maybe what could we do? And now that we've established those connections, perhaps somewhere we could start collaborating on something. So certainly the seeds have been planted for that. Yeah.
No, the government of India has come up with new film policies for international filmmakers for the shooting, post-production and release of the film. So you should have a look into that idea.
Definitely, and anything to
And as a director from foreign land, how you rate the Indian films?
Well, I mean, I haven't experienced too much, but I guess my experience is mostly sort of the bigger Bollywood ones that I kind of take over the world a little bit. But as I was saying, sort of just experiencing what some of these local guys are doing on that independent level too was really fascinating for me. So
the scenarios in India has changed. There's no more Bollywood. We have pan-India movies, very commercial, viable films.
Yeah,
it will bring very huge business. I would request you to watch that type of movies, pan-India movies. the Bollywood's old formula.
Old formula.
Old formula, yes. We have pan-India movies, actors across the country working in multiple languages and releasing worldwide films. Now Indian films release worldwide.
Yes,
not
absolutely.
in India.
And I think that something that is quite difficult for Australians to kind of wrap their heads around a little bit is just the scale of
It's
India.
very huge scale.
Huge scale, so much different language, so much different regions that are all creating sort of unique stories to them. So
Recently we had a Kalki RRR, which had huge business of animation. Thank you.
Yeah, and so because of the time constraint, you want to
I just wanted to jump in and say, as much as I love Del Se and Kuch Kuch Hota Hai, India an excellent year. You got it in Cannes, and you had Girls Will Be Girls and Nocturnal, so you're dominating. So that's why we're here, to just headhunt. So we won't go anywhere.
Thank you so much. Okay, so because of time constraint, we are ending this. So I just want to congratulate the entire team. Also, I want to thank all the delegates on the dais and all the participants today. We hope that the discussion and insights shared today will take the message of the film to a wider audience through the media. And also, I hope to see you guys in the coming festivals with amazing movies like this. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you so much, guys. Thank you.